everybody, Adam from Alentado Training Consultants with some more Spanish for all who serve. In this video, I'm going to give you a group of expressions to address the presence of weapons in an encounter with a Spanish speaker, and we're starting right now. This is part 2 on our Officer Safety Spanish Arrest and Control Expressions series. If you haven't seen it yet, you can find part 1 here or in the description below. There'll be a lightning round review at the end of this video going over all the expressions. Right now, we're going to give you some vocabulary to address the known presence of a weapon in the following situations. Number 1, when a weapon is within the grasp of the subject. Number 2, when the subject already has a weapon in his or her hand. So stay with me, and I'll be introducing 4 new expressions that, when used in combination, will equip you to verbally control most of these situations in essentially the same way you would in English. We'll be working in a review of the vocabulary we learned in part 1 of this series as well. Veo el arma. Veo el arma. In encounters involving the presence of weapons, this expression puts the subject on notice that you're aware there's a weapon. This will hopefully have one or more of the following effects. 1, make the subject aware you see the object. Number 2, make it crystal clear that you consider that object a threat. Bear in mind that they may not realize this. A box cutter on the front seat of a car you've stopped may be a tool that the driver uses at work, but it's still a threat to you, and now he understands that in no uncertain terms. Number 3, give you an initial gauge of the subject's intentions based on nonverbal response. Number 4, set a context for what you're going to say next, which will depend on the totality of the circumstances. Veo el arma. Veo el arma. No toque. No toque. If the item that poses a threat, be it a hammer, a knife, or a firearm, or whatever, is somewhere within the subject's reach, but not actually in his or her hand, you can say this to order them not to touch it. No toque. No toque. Do you remember how to say, I see the weapon? Veo el arma. Veo el arma. How about don't touch it? No toque. No toque. Suéltelo. Suéltelo. This is quite possibly the most important thing a law enforcement officer can know how to say in Spanish. There are many examples of people who were shot and killed because the officer didn't know this expression and felt the only option left was lethal force. If they had known these 3 syllables, suéltelo, some of those situations might have been resolved peacefully. With this command, you can order a person to drop any single object that they may have in their hand, no matter what it is. Now, grammatically, sometimes the ending would change from lo to la, but that's not critical to being understood. Additionally, if you start with veo el arma, naming the item as the weapon, el arma, now makes it masculine grammatically, and therefore suéltelo is correct. And of course, most importantly, it makes the subject aware that you perceive a threat and that you mean business. Suéltelo. Suéltelo. Now, how do you say, I see the weapon? Veo el arma. Veo el arma. How do you say, don't touch it? No toque. No toque. Now tell me, drop it. Suéltelo. Suéltelo. Ahorita. Ahorita. That's right now. If suéltelo is the most important thing you can know how to say in Spanish, then ahorita runs a close second. If you don't get immediate compliance with suéltelo, or with any number of other commands you'll be using later, you could say ahorita to add emphasis. Using this expression can provide one or more of the following benefits. 1, add emphasis and reinforce the preceding command. 2, avoid repeating a command over and over, which tends to tip your hand and make the subject aware that you're not a fluent speaker of Spanish. 3, any encounter involving weapons or any arrest can be risky, but multiple offenders can communicate around you using Spanish and then the risks skyrocket. If you use ahorita in place of repeating the same command over and over, it makes you sound more fluent and tends to have a chilling effect on any coordinated efforts to defeat you. Ahorita! Ahorita! That's best if you deal primarily with Mexican and Central American speakers. If you're dealing with Spanish speakers from the Caribbean, that's Puerto Rico, the Dominican Republic, and Cuba, then instead of ahorita, you're going to want to use ahora. Ahora. So how would you say, drop it right now? Suéltelo, ahorita. And if you deal mostly with Puerto Ricans, Dominicans, or Cubans, suéltelo, ahora. Okay, how do you say I see the weapon in Spanish? Veo el arma. How about don't touch it? No toque. Now tell me, drop it. Suéltelo. How about saying right now if you deal mostly with Mexicans and Central American Spanish speakers? Ahorita. How about if you're dealing mostly with Caribbean Spanish speakers? Ahora. Okay, so you've made a traffic stop and you see a knife on the front passenger seat within the reach of the driver. What do you say? Veo el arma. No toque. Now, how do you get his hands away from the threat? Manos arriba. You're attempting to serve an arrest warrant. You're on the back door of a house as other officers are making contact in the front. The wanted subject, who speaks no English, suddenly walks out the back door carrying a hammer. What do you say? Veo el arma. Suéltelo. Now, he looks stunned, but doesn't immediately comply. How can you reiterate without letting him know you're not a fluent speaker? Suéltelo, ahorita. Okay, time for a lightning round review. I'm just going to show you some images, both from this lesson and from the preceding video. I want you to say the Spanish phrase it corresponds with. If you're still not sure what the Spanish phrase means, go back to the preceding video and review part 1. Here we go. Alto. Alto. Policía. Policía. Manos arriba. Manos arriba. No se mueva. No se mueva. Veo el arma. Veo el arma. No toque. No toque. Suéltelo. Suéltelo. Ahorita. Ahorita. Or ahora. Ahora. Were you able to come up with the expressions in this last review before I said them? If not, just keep rolling through this lightning review until you can. It started here. Remember, repetition is the mother of all learning. Now, were you able to come up with all of them? Great job. Time to move on to the next video. Speaking of which, in part 3 of this series, we'll be learning to make a complete standing arrest and positioning the subject for search prior to securing in a vehicle for transport. If you like what we're doing here, hit the like button and subscribe so you won't miss any of our upcoming videos. For more information on where we're having our in-person classes, information on our online coaching program, or other services we provide, check our website or find us on Facebook and Instagram. Stay safe, and we'll see you in the next video.